Alright everyone, in my last few videos I've introduced quite a few characters from my comic story. So today I thought I'd show you how Teef Fur's world grew into the strange place that it is. There was no grand plan. Most of it grew completely by accident, from sketchbooks and random ideas that slowly connected over the course of about 10 years. It started with a dog, Florence. She was such a good girl that we searched out her sister, Penny. Inspired, I drew two dogs. Teef, like Flo, loyal, smart and a little bit naughty. Fur, like Penny, smaller, louder, with a shorter temper. And I thought, I'll give them clothes, because that's fun. If a dog wants to get about town without being lifted to the rescue centre, they need a disguise. And where do dogs get clothes? From their owner, of course. So I gave Teef a camo coat. And then I gave them their own owner. And like me, he likes dogs, good tunes and old cars. That's my rust box at the bottom. Early on I went to a car meet and I spotted this Golf. And I thought, my dogs need this in their life. So Dave got a nice weekend motor, but when he's at work, our heroes borrow it for a joyride. Unfortunately, Big Brother is always watching. Our pets don't want their secret getting out. Their rebelliousness and character growing with every step. Built myself my own reference model, because if you get the angles wrong, it starts to look like a different car. All this mystery draws a bit of bother from the boys in blue. I choose an older model van which lightly period dates the project, and I make this lot bumbling and boisterous. Why? No comment. Dave's ride had a few empty seats to fill, so I give the brothers some new mates, an urban fox called Copper, and because the tunes are all important, I make him a DJ, connoisseur of good tunes and fine chicken shops. While we're exploring Great British nature, I make his bestie a badger, MC Ute Stripies, a larger than life character. Now I've produced a few characters with camouflage coats, so I'll create a custom repeat pattern for each character. Stripey seems a bit of a handful, so I'll give him some guidance. Old man Benny Winterbottom, a grumbling grandfather who'd rather be smoking his pipe and reading his paper in peace than dealing with his grandson's nonsense. Now we've got a bit of a crew together. I call them the Fluffy Trouble Crew, and they're cruising in their jam jar, blasting the tunes and chasing the snacks. But I don't stop there. It needs more story. So they're off to their pirate radio station, the Jolly Bodger, 66.6 on your dial. I introduce DJ Terrierist, Jack Russell, the ADHD of dogs, and a DJ of high energy mixing. In contrast, DJ Baphomet, the GOAT, who works the graveyard shift, player and producer of some of the darkest tunes. At this point I start developing things around my characters, record sleeves and flyers of things they've produced. Pirate radio stations need somewhere to broadcast from, so I build a tower block into the story, and where there's one, there's often two more, and I give them all names. I pin the idea to East London and I give it a working title, Dognum Town, because I grew up in Dagenham and no one pronounces it proper. While we're on the dog theme, I decide the Isle of Dogs is the ideal spot to put my fictional borough. I do a bit of research into what my version of London will look like. It's full of old boozers, railway arches and wonky chimney pots, and where you have London rooftops, you get pigeons. Big ones. Big popper coo ones that don't coo but more spit bars. But then there's a team up, because when you're bird watching in London, you're gonna see the Cockney Sparrow. This guy has little wings and a big voice to narrate the story of the ends. Back on the ground I add another character to the crew, Biscuit, a happy-go-lucky spaniel with an art student vibe. He designs and gets all the radio stations advertising out there, sometimes with his own tag along the way. So I figure a record shop would be a good hub, and if you've got one shop, why not create a whole street? But one in particular stands out, a really traditional sound system banger of a store. Specialists in all things dub, reggae and jungle, run by three brothers, Earl, Winston and Clifford, who in a moment of questionable wisdom and enthusiasm bought a lion cub. Raised as family in the store, Uncle Tubby, the slightly agoraphobic big cat, enjoys a laid-back life of music, snacks and private parties after the brothers have locked up and left for the night. Now this is all very fun, but I decide the crew need a bit of a challenge in their hood. I throw a gang of cats in the mix. The 9 Lives crew. Initially, a bit of muscle like Bumble here, just getting in the way of day-to-day business. Then Mouser, who's a bit smarter and undecided if the radio is such a bad thing or not. After a number of cats, I land on a game changer, Ember, a ruthless snide cat, the leader of the 9. Delusions of grandeur and links to the occult. In turn, this led me to research the darker myths and legends of London to see if I could weave anything into my story, and there was plenty, because there's something strange going on in my neighbourhood, and it ain't up to no good. And that's the world of Teef Fur, Tales of the Hood. I'm working on more, but that's for a future video. If you want to learn more about my comic project, give the subscribe button a little nudge, and maybe tap the like button while you're at it. It's all appreciated. Thanks for watching.